let's jump into some football this weekend. We got a jam-packed weekend as the SEC continues. We got Big 12. We got some mid-majors as well. Even an FCS pick in here, Brett. We're going to talk about college football in the first half. We're going to finish this episode with some NFL, so make sure to stick around for the entirety of it. We have two games on Friday, Brett. Do you want to talk about Campbell versus Wake Forest?
I think we could just jump ahead to Louisiana Tech BYU, but my guess would be Wake Forest is going to beat Campbell if you want to throw that into like a quote unquote lock parlay.
Yes, Wake Forest money line was like minus 20,000, so I think the odds are pretty safe there. Don't know the value
Yeah,
you'll get
we
even in
we
a
didn't even
parlay.
need to discuss the odds. Yeah, you probably want to keep them out.
I do like the Louisiana Tech versus BYU game, and I'll tell you why. Both of these teams are 2-0. BYU is ranked 22nd. Louisiana Tech is not ranked. I think BYU is gonna win this game, but I think they are overcompensating, or at least the books are, in terms of this quality of a BYU defense, who's averaging only 5 points allowed per game, but they've only faced Navy and Troy. And Navy has shown they weren't that good in that opening night game against BYU, and then they escaped with the win over Tulane. Troy got stomped 48-7. But Louisiana Tech's offense is a different animal than either of these guys. They average 48.5 points per game, and I think it'll be a little bit more of an offensive matchup now. Louisiana Tech's defense is by no means the quality of BYU, so I don't think Louisiana Tech's going to win. I don't think it's worth it on the money line at plus 980, but plus 24.5 over three full touchdowns, including 2-point conversions. I think that is a very, very juicy spread when I first took a look at it.
Yeah, I think that's a big number, but BYU coming out there on a nationally televised game that opening night against Navy and doing what they did, they probably earned a few extra points on the spread because this is the biggest game of the night again, so they know all of America will be watching, and they're going to be looking, BYU, oh, they killed Navy. So a little bit of recency bias there. Although I guess some people will watch the NBA Finals game too.
I will say Louisiana Tech and BYU are both 2-0 against the spread, so somebody's record's going to get broken a little bit there. I mean, they're both 2-0 in real life, 2-0 against the spread. Someone's coming out of here with a loss. Is the same team going to come up with a loss in both cases? We'll have to see.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to watch. Good point.
Let's move on to Saturday, though, Brett, because it is a chock full slate. I mean, I'm on four different games on Saturday as well. You're on three or four, I believe, as well. Let's start off with a game neither of us are on. I looked at this game. It's a little too close for me to confidently pick either side, but Baylor versus West Virginia should be a great game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, that would have me leaning over 53 and a half there. That just seems low for a Big 12 football game, especially with these two high powered offenses.
I really agree. I think it's going to be a great one. I mean, West Virginia does have a loss in the Big 12 already. Baylor does not. You have to imagine West Virginia is going to try to redeem themselves a little bit, especially at home at Mountaineer Field. So that should be an interesting one. And right now, the weather's looking like it's going to hold up. It's going to be about a 60-degree day, but it's not going to be wet or rainy at all. That could allow for the ball to get launched around the field a little bit.
Yeah, no, these two teams, I mean, historically speaking, when they get together, they put up points. So I expect that trend to continue. 53 and a half. I know, this isn't Baylor of last year. This isn't Geno Smith's West Virginia, right? But uh, they could put up more than 53 and a half. I certainly believe that.
Another game that can definitely put up points is this TCU versus Texas game. Now, Texas at 2-0 is averaging 61 points per game. 61 points per game. However, you're going to find me on the other side of the spread with TCU at plus 12.5 because even though Texas has been able to score a ton, last week they had to go to overtime and won 63-56. The other one that they played was a 59-3 blowout against UTEP, but that's UTEP. That's not TCU.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, TCU is 0-1, and they lost a close one against Iowa State last week, 37-34. So I think plus 12.5 might be a little too big of a spread here.
yeah. I mean, Texas Tech. Talk about a miracle comeback for the Longhorns in that one. That was crazy. But yeah, I think you're right. I think TCU getting almost a full 2 touchdowns here, 12 and a half. That's pretty close to 14. They should be able to keep it within 2 scores, I think. I think that's reasonable.
And this over under at 62.5, I would not be surprised to see that go over. I'm not going to be on the over, but I would say I would be leaning on that over just by how much both of these teams air out the ball. I mean, the leading rushers for these two teams, for TCU, the leading rusher is 8 carries for 39 yards. They've only played one game, but that's not a very high amount of rushes. The leading rusher for Texas, 21 carries, 133 yards over 2 games. Meanwhile, the quarterbacks, they've been having a field day, it looks like. Ellinger already has 10 touchdowns passes for the Longhorns, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some very long passes, some very quick drives, and see it potentially be a 63-point game. 9 touchdowns does not seem out of the realm of possibility to me.
No, it also seems a possibility. I'm going to stick in the Big 12 Higgins with my next pick, though, and head to the loser of the Texas Tech game, Texas Tech, Kansas State. And I think Texas Tech lost a heartbreaker last week. I mean, in what they definitely consider a rivalry game. I'm not sure how Texas feels about it, but Texas Tech definitely views it as a rivalry game. To lose
In
in
state,
that,
it's always a rivalry.
to blow a 2 score lead late in the fourth quarter like that and then lose in overtime, it's going to be tough to bounce back. Kansas State looked much better last week after an upset in their first game. They come back and they beat Oklahoma. So I expect K State to come out confident. And I think Texas Tech is going to come out, a little disheartened. That was their season last week.
I think that is a great pick that you have. Kansas State, I think this game can all come down to who has the hot start. Texas Tech could be demoralized, like you're saying. Kansas State has every reason to come out like a bat out of hell for this game right now. They should be all pistons firing, maybe take some chances early, maybe a trick play or something to keep those spirits up. But I could see Kansas State stealing another one, especially since they won that game at Oklahoma. They didn't beat the Sooners in Kansas. They beat them in Oklahoma. That's big.
Yeah, and it was definitely a new quarterback for Oklahoma.
And speaking of the Oklahoma Sooners and Spencer Rattler, though, Brett, that team is also a game we're going to be talking about here versus Iowa State. Now, we talked about Iowa State in that TCU game as well. I think, and you're on the same side as me with this one, Oklahoma should rebound in this game in a big way. I know Spencer Rattler. I've seen him play in high school and now in college. Letting that game slip away, I'm sure Kansas State's going to be on his calendar the rest of his career as a Sooner for the next 3 years or however long he stays there. But Oklahoma dropping down to 18, now traveling to go play Iowa State. Give me that minus 7.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. -7.5. I'm on Oklahoma. I just think they're the better team. I think Rattler, it was a tough first start. You don't start against Kansas State. You usually have, Oklahoma Central Northwest State.
That was his second start.
Who was his first?
Missouri State.
Oh, Missouri State. Damn it, he did have one of those.
Yeah.
Well, that's tough.
But I'm sure he's going to have to rebound in his Big 12 start anyways. I mean, Oklahoma's averaging 41.5 points. Iowa State 25.5. Iowa State's giving up more points than they're averaging by about 10 or 7 points at full touchdowns. So minus 7.5 doesn't worry me when you look at those analytics like that. Meanwhile, the Oklahoma State defense, they did their part. I mean, 35 35 points is a lot, but they did their part overall, I'd say.
It's the Big 12. There's no defense, Higgins.
That is true. That is true. Now, do you mind if we jump from the FBS real quick and jump into the FCS?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, because we do have the perennial program North Dakota State Bisons facing off hosting Central Arkansas. Now, Central Arkansas has 3 games under their belt. They should be trying to come into this game pretty confident considering NDSU has not played a game yet. But I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all. NDSU is favored by 22.5 points, and based off of how they have played throughout the past few years, I think they're going to steamroll them. Central Arkansas is not that good. They have not played quality opponents. They beat Morehead State and they beat Appalachian State 24-17 to start the season. So they stole a game in the opening weekend, lost to UAB, and then beat Morehead State. No, North Dakota State's going to get this win here.
We'll see what happens. I'm not as confident, but I do like where your head's at because this is North Dakota State's only game on their schedule. This is literally what I'm calling the Trey Lance game, the Trey Lance showcase, whatever you want to call it. This is just one
Keep running that
opportunity
score up.
This is the one opportunity for him to play this year, and if you're the New York Jets, you better be tuning in.
You already know he looks good in green too, so that should help ease that decision a little bit.
Well,
for the
that
Jets.
helps. That maybe that I always say a joke like maybe that helped Carson Wentz get to the Eagles because they're like, oh, green.
Green. He wears green well. Let's do it. Let's just do it.
Oh, Josh Allen wears a white helmet in college. He could wear a white helmet in Buffalo.
All right, I think that's about enough of the FCS talk. We don't need to go too much more into it. There is another mid-major game that I want to talk about, Brett, but let's go back into the Power 5 real quick because you have an SEC face-off that should be really entertaining.
Yeah, so I'm looking at LSU Vanderbilt. LSU obviously upset by Mississippi State. Mike Leach making noise in his debut there with Mississippi State, but LSU comes back. Vandy, that's a soft game. -20. I think Miles Brennan rebounds. I think LSU rebounds. I think they cover that 20.5 point spread, Higgins.
I think that should happen. I mean, LSU didn't look bad. They just looked a little confused, and considering they didn't have their starting quarterback from last year and there were some pieces missing, it's kind of understandable for how that went. But I do expect that they would rebound. I don't see them going 0-2 to start their season. So LSU is probably the right side to be on with that. I am, though, going to be on a mid-major game between Memphis and SMU. Now, this is a very entertaining game to me, partly because SMU at 3-0 is not ranked, but Memphis at 1-0 is ranked. If I was SMU and I was the Mustangs, I would feel snubbed by this because what has Memphis done that they haven't done? Memphis' only win is against Arkansas State, whereas SMU has beaten Stephen F. Austin, North Texas, and Texas State. So where's the quality difference in terms of opponents? SMU's played 3. They should be the top. They should be the 25 ranked team instead. And SMU as a slight underdog at home, give me them on the money line plus 115.
You know what, Higgins? I feel like Central Arkansas, Arkansas State, Arkansas. Let's get Northwest Arkansas, Southwest Arkansas. We gotta get all the Arkansas into the show today. But Memphis, SMU plus 115. You're not gonna get SMU as dogs very much. You might as well take them when you can, I guess.
Absolutely, and especially since they're at home, it made that decision a little bit easier.
Yeah, I agree. That helps.
All right, last college football game of the week, and this is the one that I was actually talking about when I threw it to you, Brett. The Auburn-Georgia game. That's the one I'm more interested
in. Oh, well, I was just trying to go in order, keep it nice in order. But yeah, Auburn, Georgia is obviously a little bit bigger of a game. That's a good point. And it's a big rivalry game. Honestly, Georgia didn't impress me very much against a bad Arkansas team. I guess you could say they're improved because Felipe Franks is there, but that would mean you thought Felipe Franks was pretty good at Florida. So I don't know what I think of Arkansas. I know I was more impressed with what Auburn did covering against Kentucky, and really they made Kentucky look pretty bad. Although a big reason I bet Auburn last week was because I thought Kentucky was pretty bad when Lynn Bowden wasn't playing quarterback for them, and wide receiver, and running back, and kick returner, and probably coach and all the other positions.
I think it's smart to bet on Bo Nix. I mean, he had a year of experience from last year. He was destined to be an Auburn quarterback since he was at that Iron game where the ball was returned all the way back, and he was there when the player jumped into the stands. I mean, Auburn plus 6.5 against Georgia. I don't think this game's going to be a touchdown either way, so I think that's the right call. Plus 235 on the money line even looks pretty sweet as it is as well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with the points, take the points, and go Auburn, War Eagle.